Welcome back. All right, so today's video on the Entertainment Guide channel, I want to talk a bit about astronomy. Astronomy's been like my favorite thing to discuss that's science related since I was a little kid. I remember being in the backyard as a kid, looking at all the stars in the sky. This was before all the light pollution in my hometown, and it was ridiculous how much I was able to see. And I took advantage of it as much as I could, although looking back, I wish I'd taken advantage of it more than I did. I should have been out in my backyard more during the winter. I should have been out in my backyard. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have been. Because finding a place where you can have that ability to see all the stars and to have no light pollution is getting very difficult. We have a darkness preserve in Abbotsford, but what I've read of recent reviews, because of recent developments not too far from that darkness preserve, there is now light pollution in that as well. Darkness preserves. I understand that for a city, that's not something that brings in money, and it's not, something's going to help with income tax. But they're I think important. I think it's always important to look up. And one thing I found is no matter how depressing news might get, no matter what concerns we might have about the world around us, once you understand how small and insignificant your problems are, for me at least personally, I find it somewhat reassuring to look at the universe and realize we don't know. Like, science does its best to understand everything, but what we've started to find recently when it comes to the universe has some thinking, maybe the Big Bang is not a perfect theory and it needs to be updated. And I'm glad. I'm glad that they're considering updating that because I'm not sure about like the Big Bang theory. I've watched all of the how the universe works on this, and there's something about the Big Bang that I'm not. I understand what they're saying with the science. I understand where they're going, but I'm not convinced that that's necessarily how everything gets started. So, how I got there was simple. Now, as a kid, reading the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books, absolutely fantastic. And for some reason, I find those to be, I don't know, they're kind of fun. Like the way Douglas Adams envisioned the universe, I think that's a fun way to envision it. Even though the Earth gets blown up at the start of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but don't worry, it comes back. Star Wars and Star Trek were big in terms of making me a huge fan of astronomy, and without Star Wars, I probably don't write the Into the Void books. Star Trek, I think the science behind Star Trek was sound. A lot of the things that were discussed in Star Trek, even the way they travel, warp speed, the idea of warping space, so space is moving, not you. Um, that is considered to be a way that you could travel from one star to another if we could ever actually create a warp drive. So, kudos to Gene Roddenberry for figuring out things that work. The only thing that doesn't work is a transporter. You couldn't have a transporter. In fact, the transporter technology is terrifying because essentially what it does is it takes you, puts you in a computer, and then recreates you on the ground, which to me says that that's no longer you. You have the memories, you still remember it, everything still works, but they just recreated you. So there's that. Battle Beyond the Stars, bad movie from 1980. Didn't matter. It was on TV all the time. I really enjoyed it. And it opened my eyes to this idea that I'm on a planet that is just flying through the universe and it's floating around a star. And when you really get into all this, it's fascinating. It's so much more interesting than the day to day that we have. And the series Cosmos, which of course is Carl Sagan's best known work. I watched that when I was a kid. Carl Sagan's voice is so relaxing. The billions and billions of years, thousands of light years away. Like he had this cadence, he had this wave. It just made me feel better. And astronomy has always made me feel better. I've been watching a lot of astronomy videos lately. Anton is the host of the channel I watch the most. And I like Anton's work because I want to say Anton Petrov. I like it because he has a very simple way of delivering the information. He's not flashy. He doesn't yell and scream. He doesn't get. He's just very matter of fact. Here's what we've discovered, and here's what it could mean. He clearly knows what he's talking about, and I think he makes it entertaining. Because a lot of the astronomy stuff now is AI. I'm just throwing out there. A lot of the stuff you're going to see on this platform is going to be AI. And when I hear the AI voice and I see the AI images, I click out of that. No. I think the universe is beautiful as is. You don't need an AI picture for something that's already beautiful as is. Now, really, it's simple for me. So I understand I'm on a planet. It's in a solar system, which is in a galaxy, and then that galaxy is part of a local cluster, which is also apparently in the part of one of the largest voids in the known universe. And when you get into that, it's like it's weird. And so the idea is that you have this issue with gravitational lensing and the Hubble tension and everything else, and maybe that void that we're a part of helps to understand why that Hubble tension is there. And if I'm talking over your head, I apologize. But this is the kind of stuff that I love this. I will eat this up. I think it's great. I think it's great. And what's going on right now when it comes to telescopes is so exciting. There is so much. So James Webb is really well known, and obviously it starts with Hubble. Without the Hubble Space Telescope and the images that it sent back years ago, I don't think we're here. I think Hubble just opened everybody's eyes to how beautiful the universe can be. And James Webb took those Hubble images and just cranked them up to 11 and has been able to find ridiculous amounts of material on the universe, and it keeps looking further and further out. And what they're finding is that the universe in its infancy looked a lot like the universe does now. So there are some building blocks of galaxies that they found, dwarf galaxies that of course become full-size galaxies as time goes by and they have these collisions. But there are some fully formed galaxies out there, some big fully formed galaxies that are out there earlier than they'd expected, which is why they're starting to rethink some of their theories, which is great. Your scientific theory exists until the next one comes in to replace it. So that's where they're at, is trying to figure out cosmically how all this works. Now, if you haven't seen the Rubin telescope images, look up the Rubin telescope images. They are ridiculous, absolutely amazing what the Rubin telescope is going to be able to do. It is going to find so many asteroids and comets, and it is going to map the night sky every day for 10 years. And then basically you get a movie with that, right? And it will show them so many various things around the universe that you otherwise might miss, because it's going to be constantly taking pictures of the sky. And what I think is great, and I know they're doing this with the Rubin, which is there's going to be so much information. I think they're doing this with Euclid as well, where we as amateurs at home, we can look through those images, and if we find something, we can let them know. Hey, I noticed this. And they'll be like, hey, you noticed that before we did. Cool, good for you. But yeah, so they kind of want amateur astronomers to get involved, and I think that's great. I do. I think it's fantastic, and I would love to see a Northern Hemisphere version of the Rubin telescope. There is nothing Northern Hemisphere that I've seen. Doesn't mean it's not there. It just means I haven't seen online anything that does what the Rubin's going to do. We need that in the Northern Hemisphere. Let's make it happen. The Euclid telescope is ridiculous. It is in space, and it's basically mapping out the universe one small piece at a time, and the amount of detail in the images. Just like you zoom in and you can keep zooming in and keep like this era of cameras taking pictures of the universe. We've never seen this. It is why I think there should be more funding for this kind of science, because the more we know about the universe around us, the better. The more we understand the universe around us, the better. There are various things that could threaten life on Earth, for instance, that could be out in the universe. Rogue planets come to mind as one thing that is always possible. Not probable, but possible. And considering how dark a planet is, if it's not near a star, I think it'd be great if one of these telescopes found us some rogue planets. I think that'd be fun. But yeah, the Euclid images are absolutely amazing. I would recommend them to anybody watching this. The Rubin telescope as well, and James Webb. And just find channels on that are not AI related. And I think you're going to find yourself really enjoying the experience of finding out how small we are in the universe, and just the wonder of everything. Look up magnetars. So I've always been a fan of what, when I was a kid, was a pulsar. Now we know they're neutron stars, and a pulsar is a very specific form of a neutron star. But magnetars are just this bonkers, ridiculous thing that I've watched at least 4 YouTube videos on. And I could probably watch a bunch more because they're fascinating. And one thing I do with astronomy is when I was a kid, there was an astronomy, I want to say textbook, but it was basically a paperback book. It was about 400 pages. And I would take it out of the library and just keep signing it out. So like you had a week, right? So I just take it back in a week and sign it out again and take it. And I knew nobody else wanted it. I had that book through most of my grade 7 year, most of my grade 6 year too. I think I would just go through it over and over and over. Like for instance, on the hockey channel, I would study statistics from players, go through everybody, and then I'd go back to the front of the yearbook and start over. And I would do that over and over and over. So that's how I remember certain players had certain seasons. It's just rehearse it. Just keep going over and over that same material so you know it. This is a great time for people to look at astronomy and look at the universe and look at just these images, especially like I said, Euclid and the Rubin telescope. Euclid's absolutely it's insane. We're going to learn so much from all these telescopes, and astronomers will have decades, maybe centuries worth of data from all this. Like it is just I don't know how we could do more than what we've done with Rubin and Euclid, but I'm sure that astronomers and the scientific community will figure it out. But it is definitely worth checking out. So if you haven't watched any of the videos on the Rubin or on the Euclid, consider me giving that as a recommendation to you to go ahead, search those on YouTube and enjoy the videos because this is an unprecedented age we're going through now, and I'm very excited to be able to witness this. Because when I was a kid, pulsars and quasars were just like at the back of astronomy textbooks with basically captions of we don't know what these are. We know quasars are really bright. We don't know where they are. We don't know what's going on with them. Now we know what quasars are. We don't necessarily understand everything about quasars, but we know what they are. And pulsars, now we know what they are and how long approximately they go for, and that eventually they just become regular neutron stars. So, and also we have a neutron star in this galaxy that at any point in time could just turn into a black hole. I found that out watching an astronomy video the other night, and I thought that's really neat. That and it won't explode. It doesn't explode to do that. It just disappears. So astronomers are watching it to see when it's going to disappear. And it could have already disappeared because of the amount of time it takes for light to get to Earth. Betelgeuse as well. Betelgeuse is frothing. It's just if you see images of Betelgeuse, the star, not the movie, Betelgeuse is this not circular mass, not at all. It's just basically a big blob there, and eventually it's just going to explode. And I'm hoping it's in my lifetime, but I know it's not going to happen because if it explodes, we'll be able to see it in daytime. So I'm a big fan of that. I think that'd be fantastic. And here's to hoping there's some kind of supernova that happens during my lifetime that I'll be able to look up in the sky during the day and say, that's the supernova. That's where that happened. That's fantastic. And you get some time and then it just fades away to nothing. But yeah, that would be a lot of fun to see in the night sky. And yeah, another thing that I watch that's not astronomy related, I do watch like videos about tectonics. And so like whether it's plates moving around. So I've watched videos on like the breakup of Pangea, that kind of thing. Going through all of the Earth's history is always fun, and looking at like the dinosaur era and before the dinosaur era, and um, and getting into like the volcanoes, the tsunamis, all that stuff. Just the more of that I can consume, I think the better. And so this is what I consume a lot of the time when I'm not watching hockey or covering hockey. Like, all right, I did my hockey. I'm going to reward myself. I'm going to watch some stuff on the universe. The reason I didn't get into the astronomy side of things and really go into it is because I knew that to become an astronomer it would involve such complex math, so much. It is so complicated. I knew that I was not going to be able to get through and do that. I knew there was no way I was actually ever going to be an astronomer. So I have full on respect for all astronomers everywhere for the work they do. And I consume all of these findings, I consume all these images, and I let them tell me what the theories are and all that. And then for me personally, and I'll close on this, because as you pan out, the universe looks more and more like the neural net in your brain. I do think that in the universe, there are things we're not going to understand. And I do think that everything's connected. I sort of understand some of the, I don't know, hippy dippy kind of stuff you hear in the 60s. We're all connected, man. You know, the whole universe. I do feel that now. I do feel like there's definitely something to the idea that the universe, it's, I don't want to say alive, because that's very kind of clickbaity, and I've seen that on YouTube, that it's kind of a clickbaity kind of thing. Oh, scientists think the universe is alive. I think the universe is far more complex than we think it is. I think there's a lot of the universe we can't see, which they qualify as dark matter and dark energy, and there's a lot of it we'll never understand. But it does make me feel better, because I do think that over the billions and billions of years that have been behind us and in front of us, anything can happen, including there being another Earth, another version of you and I. And I find that reassuring. I do. I find that reassuring, and it's that kind of thing that I'm really really enjoy consuming and getting to know. So if you're not really all that savvy on astronomy, there was the more recent reboot of Cosmos, which was put together by Neil deGrasse Tyson. I would also recommend Star Talk. Star Talk. There are certain times that something goes on in the astronomical community, and I search, and I can always find a Neil deGrasse Tyson video discussing it. He's very matter of fact. So when I hear this planet might have life on it, I'm like, let's see what Neil has to say. And Neil usually says it's possible, but, and so he brings in the reality of it, which sometimes is a bummer, but still. Anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. It's very different than videos I normally do, right? But if you can't tell, I get kind of passionate when it comes to the astronomy side. I love it. I think it's great. But hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.